Perhaps you don't need to be a scientist to understand science. Welcome to Cranium versus Skull. The most important question is, do you own a forest? Are you sure?
So you were in Paris for how long? You don't know.
As long as they let me stay.
And for the skulls, Emily Guernsey, actor.
And for the craniums, Timothée Fouqueray, ecologist. Hooray!
So, I think my first question would be, are you the cranium or the skull?
I don't remember how those were officially divided up. The skull, right? You're the brains,
Sure.
right? Is that what we said? Do you have like a little spiel about yourself? Do you want to say like who you are?
It's about climate change
Okay.
on forests. So,
Right. So when you're doing your PhD,
yeah,
the focus is climate change.
Yep.
So you're in the process of writing your dissertation?
not yet. It's
Okay.
kind of, so when it's in biology, for instance, you write papers and then you do a big review of your different papers and that becomes your PhD thesis. But have
Sounds
you
like a lot of work.
have you ever read some scientific papers before? I don't know.
Lately, no.
Okay. I can understand. It's quite often boring and written in bad globish.
Gloobish?
Yeah.
Is that a scientific word?
It's like global English.
Yeah.
You know when, yeah, like
See, it is
quite
a real
recently.
word.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I thought you made it up.
All words are made up.
All words are made up, yeah?
Made up all words. Slipping into Kermit.
It's Kermit's sexy love song. You think Jim Henson's a puppet master, but it was sexy time on camera.
What's your tattoo?
It's a spirit of life in Hungarian. It's a spiritual thing.
Okay.
Like, basically to remind myself to stay grounded and everything. But I'm not Hungarian. I don't speak the language. I didn't think about that when I got it. Like, everyone would think I was Hungarian.
You should tattoo that.
Not Hungarian. What is your research? Like, what exactly are you researching?
Yeah.
So climate change is a really big,
Yeah.
like, umbrella term.
So first, it's French forests.
Okay.
And it's even more precise. It's north of the Loire river, because that's kind of a similar piece of forest. That is to say, temperate forests, and I'm more on the foresters' part,
Okay.
the humans, because we can have strategies to help the forests. So I just go, not in the field, but in the forest, and I have interviews with people, and I do like, hey, who are you? And what do you do in your forest? Why? And afterwards, I try to analyze their reaction to climatic events, such as droughts and parasites and so on.
So when you say you're interviewing people about what's going on in their forests, who are these people? Like everyday people or other scientists working with specific forests?
So it's not everyday people because
Yeah.
it's either, so in France there are two kinds of forests, the state ones and the private ones.
Okay.
And so I go and I meet the owners of private forests plus the managers of public forests.
I did not realize there was such a thing as a
Yeah.
private forest.
Nobody knows. And it's 2/3 of French forests, actually.
Or privatized.
Yep.
Does he have a ring on his hand? Let's look closer.
Let's cut through his arm to find out.
Yeah.
I feel like if you own a that's so ridiculous to say. If you own a forest, you know, I would think you would be conscious and like aware of climate change, but who knows, like maybe there's a climate change denier who owns a forest and
It
it's a
really
rough
depends.
future for him, but
It really depends. These guys are professionals. And so most often they know what's going on and they see it.
okay.
I mean, they really see it. And the private ones, it's different because there are 3 million people owning a forest in France, and maybe like most of them don't even know it. So it's like you might have like 40 square meters of forest and you don't know it. So these guys,
That's 40 square meters of forest.
yeah, that's crazy. So
Great for
like you go in the metro, in the subway, and one people over 20 has a forest. That's ridiculous. So
Okay.
depending on who you're speaking to, some of them are really aware of it, Some don't even know what a forest is. And I must say, it's been 2 to 3 years that I've been meeting people, and over maybe in 100 meetings, just one people was like, "Oh, that's a plot to have a rising cost of fuel," and well, like,
Right.
okay, thank you.
You just so when that happens, you just kind of like, cut the conversation.
You try to
Or do you
understand
try
why
to-
he says so.
Yeah. Okay.
Usually, what happens is like, it's like that. You speak, so you have a recorder, and in the end, the guy says, because it's mostly men, do you want to see the forest? Okay, let's go. So you go in the pickup, and he shows you what he told you about,
Right.
like the big tree where he sat as a kid and so
As a
on.
young boy.
Yeah, some of them also give you a drink or two.
I mean,
That's funny.
we are in France, right?
Yeah.
So like a glass of wine.
Just cut to the part that we don't understand.
But I don't know in what you work.
In the theater.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. One of the big thing with theater that researchers are trying to do is that they really understand that it's not by reading scientific papers that the work is going to be done. And I've heard of a few pieces of plays, trying to just relate science, facts and data and, well, sometimes boring things with something that you can really feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard of that, but I'd be interested to know if
If I've heard of plays that are more
Yeah.
like science based.
Yeah.
Well, there's a famous one about mathematics and called Proof,
Okay.
which is it's a really good show. And then there's also the one that I like to put on, funnily enough, which kind of relates. There's a show that I want Nia to direct, but I'm waiting to get the rights for. It's called Lungs. And it's basically this couple, and they're analyzing whether or not they should have a child. And a lot of their discussion focuses around the environmental impacts and the carbon footprint of having a kid.
Wow,
Is it
okay.
responsible to actually have one or not? So, yeah, you might find that interesting. I'd love to do stuff like that, like theater that has some sort of a purpose, underlying message. That's the stuff that like really
Monday?
fires
Just call me.
up.
Sizzling in your skull.
Actually, when I was in high school,
Yeah.
I really loved biology. I was really into it. And I was debating when I went to college. I was like thinking about either majoring in biology or theater. And then there was a period of time that I thought, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to study environmental law. That didn't happen either. When I was little, I used to... you had these like nature books that we had. We had this like new not MacBook, those old Mac computers with like the colors on top. And so I had just learned how to type, and I would play teacher. I would teach all my dolls, and I'd have them write essays. And their essays, I'd go into the environmental books, and I would just type everything I read into the computer and like print it out and hand myself an essay.
Okay.
Plagiarism at its finest there for a child.
Maybe theaters
But,
was the right choice then.
Oh, stand up for yourself.
Oh, sit down.
I don't know, it's always been kind of close to my heart. I think probably because I grew up like putting on my boots and stomping around in the mud and
Yeah. People like kids and young people nowadays have less and less contact with nature.
Yeah.
They don't even know what's a forest anymore, and they don't. When you speak of some weird animal stuffs going on for reproduction, they don't even know it. I don't know the name. Deer, thing. You know.
What?
When deers are
Deer.
reproducing,
Yeah.
they do this
right.
really weird noise.
Oh, is that, we were just making the deer, were you just doing
I
a
was
deer
trying
sex
to speak.
noise?
Yeah. So you might be a survivor of that.
Well, I didn't know that noise, so. But I mean,
won't.
give me a fisher. I know what a fisher sounds like.
Fisher, kingfisher.
I don't know, it's those animals that are terrifying and they scream and then they eat cats.
So it eats cats.
No one ever knows. I
eats
mean, I'm
cats.
sure it eats other things than cats. It's not like
hope.
strictly cat on the diet on the menu tonight. Okay.
Google.
The fisher. It's called the fisher. The fisher is a small carnivorous mammal native to North America. It is a member of the mustelid family.
Ah.
The fisher is closely related to, but larger than, the American marten. It's not a video, it's just a photo.
Okay.
So if you were a cat owner and you had an outdoor cat and you
Yeah.
heard this noise, you were like, where's my cat? Yeah, like when we were little, what else would you do? There's nothing else to do. Like my parents weren't gonna let me watch like 7 hours of TV in the afternoon. I'd come home, I'd get 30 minutes, an hour if they weren't home, and just like go outside, just play in the mud,
Fisher.
grab a stick,
Okay.
hit
Yeah.
something with it. Not an animal, God, not an animal, but like Cranium Skull.
People are like, hey, so I know I've been to a forest and climate, and they try to tell you what you should do, and sometimes I'm more cautious with what I say about climate change than people defending the fight against climate change and so on. It's sure that we humans have a responsibility of that change, but I mean, I wouldn't bet a single euro on a guy telling me what it's going to be in 10 years. Like, I don't know, like French climate it's not French, it's international, so our actions taken here have an impact on Belgium, but also on Indonesia and the other way around, but we don't know how, and blah, blah.
Yeah, people want concrete answers.
Yeah,
Steps they can
and
take.
it's sometimes difficult to explain these kind of theoretical uncertainties in daily life.
Yeah. So you're collecting data on how
Not
forests
exactly.
react? No. Okay.
What I do is to focus on the human side of it. We don't know exactly what's coming. We know it's going to change. We don't know in what proportions and so on. Okay. So my focus is, do we as humans try to adapt us and not the forests? Maybe we can follow the climate moves in a way and not trying to resist it.
I imagine when you were talking about that, you were like, okay, so for instance, you have the timber industry, and obviously if you want to adapt, we want to adapt away from that, you're going to have the outcry of, but the jobs.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned after was that sort of think of new ways to use that labor, that workforce, so you're not like suggesting putting people out of jobs because nobody would.
I love the question because that's really what I try to do.
I feel like I'm in a Buddhist temple because I have no idea what's being said and I'm falling asleep.
My information for climate change mostly comes from what's in the news. And I did a protest a couple years ago here in Paris too. But it was kind of a like everything wrapped into one like anti-Trump situation. So it involved climate change denial and
I think I've been to it.
everything else.
Yeah.
You might have. It's
I don't really remember.
just a couple years ago, right after he was elected. So.
We had one last month, close to there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Marche pour le Climat, but
Yeah.
maybe you've heard of that.
Yeah, there was something. Was that like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I saw
And
there was
there's a new one
review,
in 2 weeks.
And there's yeah. I tried to ride my bike through that.
So you bike.
I do bike.
Because of the climate or because it's easier in Paris?
This forest guy.
He's just deforested her argument.
If this knowledge is decreasing, then no one's gonna know or really care about
That's it.
climate
That's the
change.
problem.
Yeah. So how could you fight that? What, like take busloads of children with permission? Take busloads of children to the woods.
I think
Set them
that
free for an afternoon.
as a scientist, you can try to do things to fight climate change.
Okay.
And that's really through education. 30 days in a year, I go in a specific building in my university on the campus, and it's a kid lab. So a class comes for 1 day, and they are really here to experiment what a research project can be. For instance, tomorrow I have one about the soil life. So like worms, moles.
Oh, they'll love that. Like, do you bring in
Depending.
worms? Do you bring in worms and dirt for them to play with?
They have to touch it, and that's so funny. It's like you, they have a box. And
Right.
you tell them, okay, now you can open the box. You hide because you have a mixture of screams and wah.
Right.
Like, yeah. So
Okay.
good. And that's really cool because they realize that they don't have to be big brains or whatever to do science, and just that's a process. And then of course when you grow up you try to go deeper and deeper in that process. But that's really cool.
Nope, that's a great process for getting kids to come to their own conclusions about things instead of just like handing them a list of information.
Yeah.
We did actually. I teach theater to kids as well, and it always surprises me how much kids know and can do on their own. I nannied for 3 years in Paris, but last year I was with 2 little boys. They came back one day and they had done they were doing the whole week on trash.
Okay.
Trash and recycling and all of that. And he had learned that, basically he learned that trash doesn't just go back to the earth, because how are kids supposed to know that if nobody tells them that plastic stays plastic forever? And he just he hit the streets when he got out of school. He was so angry. Every single thing he saw on the ground, just put it in the trash. Why don't just put it in the trash? To the point where he was trying to get the cigarette butts too.
Some skull. Emily Guernsey, actor. Go.
I got a question for you. It's
Oh.
what would be an unusual day in your job?
Right now we just wrapped up a Shakespeare show, so that actually wasn't. Well, it's paid in profit share, so based on what we make. So we did it in an outdoor theater. It's a little chilly. This was last week. It was a little chilly. And it was a very physical show, so you get to run around the space. So for that, it was a little bit different in terms of actor work. Like you really have to warm up your body. Yeah, so maybe a little different than what your day-to-day is. Frolicking around although it was frolicking around outside technically, in the leaves. So. So if you had to do a 2-sentence or 3-sentence, just word of advice for the average person.
First, I would say change your bank and get the right one that is not investing in climate.
I would have never
wrong
thought of
things.
that.
I've changed my bank
So
2
smaller
years
banks
ago.
as opposed to using massive.
It doesn't have to be small,
Okay.
but it has to be labelized or have a certificate of right actions. That is not the big banks that are investing in how do you say, coal mines.
Right.
Or
Wait, do you know what's Crédit Agricole?
Crédit Agricole is really bad.
Damn it!
Yeah. So first thing,
Oh, okay.
then you can
Okay, I'll
change
change that.
your energy supplier. There's Greenpeace, who've just published a sort of a survey of the different energy suppliers. And third, I would say, well, you can act personally to not fly anymore, to take your bike and so on. And so the third thing is vote for people who care about that.
That's good advice. Okay, change your bank.
Yep.
Check your energy provider. And vote.
Get involved and vote.
Cool.
Yep.
Radio School.